The holographic display flickered to life in Lecture Hall 7, casting blue light across 300 alien faces. Professor Valdris adjusted his 6 eyes to focus on the projection. A massive, snarling creature, with razor-sharp teeth and claws that could shred titanium plating. "Behold," Valdris announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd spent decades cataloguing the galaxy's most dangerous life forms. "The Terran apex predator known as a tiger. Note, the distinctive orange and black pattern evolved specifically to—" A soft chuckle interrupted him. Every head in the lecture hall turned toward the back row, where the human exchange student sat with her arms crossed, a grin spreading across her face. The Zeltharian next to her had gone pale green, which, for a Zeltharian, meant either extreme fear or digestive distress. "Is there something amusing about this creature's hunting capabilities, Miss Parker?" Valdris asked, his tone sharp enough to cut through hull plating. The human, Emily, he remembered now, shook her head, still smiling. No, it's just, well, it's cute, isn't it? Look at those little ears." The lecture hall fell silent. Valdris blinked all 6 eyes in sequence, a sure sign of confusion among his species. "I'm sorry, did you just describe a creature capable of killing prey 3 times its size as cute?" "Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're basically oversized house cats. My cousin volunteers at a big cat sanctuary back home. She says they purr when you scratch behind their ears." A Krillian student in the front row made a noise that sounded like static electricity having a panic attack. The hologram rotated slowly, showing the tiger's massive paws and retractable claws. "These claws," Valdris pressed on, "can extend 4 inches and exert enough pressure to—" "Yeah, our tabby cat had claws too," Emily interrupted. "Mittens used to do that thing where he'd knead your lap and accidentally puncture your jeans. Tigers are just bigger mittens." The silence stretched so long that the lecture hall's environmental systems kicked in with a soft hum. Valdris felt his academic composure cracking like cheap asteroid mining equipment. "Moving on," he said, switching to the next slide. "Perhaps you'll find this specimen more concerning." The hologram shifted to display a creature that looked like someone had taken nightmares and given them teeth. 8 feet tall, covered in midnight black fur, with eyes that reflected light like burning coals. Its massive arms ended in claws the size of sword blades. "The Terran grizzly bear," Valdris announced. "Capable of running 30 miles per hour despite weighing 800 pounds. Its bite force measures—" Emily was laughing now. Not a polite chuckle, but genuine delighted laughter that echoed off the lecture hall's curved walls. "Oh my God, is that a black bear? We had one that used to get into our garbage when I was a kid. Mum would bang pots and pans together to scare it off." "Your mother banged kitchen utensils to frighten this apex predator?" "Well, yeah. They're basically giant raccoons with attitude problems. The trick is to make yourself look bigger and make lots of noise. Works every time." A Thraxian student raised one of his 4 arms. "Excuse me, Professor, but are we certain this human is from the same planet as these creatures?" Valdris was beginning to wonder the same thing. He'd spent 2 decades studying xenobiology, had written 3 books on interspecies threat assessment, and had never encountered a species that described apex predators as cute and oversized house cats. "Miss Parker," he said slowly, "perhaps you could enlighten us about what you consider a dangerous animal on your homeworld?" Emily tilted her head, considering. "Dangerous? Well, I guess there's some stuff you want to be careful around. Poisonous snakes, maybe, some spiders, depending on where you live. Oh, and jellyfish, those things are nasty. And these creatures were more threatening than the specimens I've shown you?" "More threatening?" Emily laughed again. "Professor, the grizzly bear you just showed us. When I was 7, we had one that was smaller than that, sleeping under my bed every night." The lecture hall went dead silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to hold their breath. "I'm sorry," Valdris said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Could you repeat that?" "Our dog Buddy. He was a Newfoundland mix, about 160 pounds of pure muscle and slobber. Every night he'd squeeze himself under my bed and sleep there. Sometimes he'd dream and his legs would kick and the whole bed would shake. Emily paused, noticing the 300 pairs of eyes staring at her in what appeared to be horror. You kept a creature comparable to a grizzly bear as a pet? A Vorthan student squeaked. Well, yeah. He was family. Great with kids, loved playing fetch, had this thing about tennis balls. He'd bring them back all slobbery and you'd have to throw them again. Classic dog behavior. Valdris felt something cold settle in his stomach. With trembling tentacles, he pulled up his tablet and began accessing the Galactic database of sentient species. His fingers moved across the interface, calling up Earth's file. Species: human, Homo sapiens. Threat level: minimal. Classification: herbivorous gatherer. Aggression index: 2.3/10. Recommended contact protocol: standard diplomatic approach. He stared at the screen, then at Emily, then back at the screen. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a very small voice was suggesting that perhaps the Galactic database had made a mistake. A very, very big mistake. "Class dismissed," he announced, his voice cracking like thin ice. We'll resume this discussion tomorrow." As 300 confused alien students filed out of the lecture hall, Valdris remained frozen at his podium, staring at the holographic tiger that Emily Parker had described as cute. And somewhere in the deepest recesses of his academic mind, he began to suspect that everything they thought they knew about Earth was wrong. The emergency session convened 18 hours after the lecture hall footage hit the galactic networks. 3 species had never called a joint meeting this quickly, not even during the Proxima Centauri trade wars. Ambassador Threk of the Dominion slammed his 4-clawed hand on the conference table, making the holographic displays flicker. 17 star systems have seen this recording. 17! My own offspring are having nightmares about cute apex predators. Councillor Vex, representing the Hive Collective, buzzed anxiously. The psychological impact is unprecedented. Our analysts report a 47% increase in xenophobia counseling requests since the footage aired. The third council member, High Administrator Gorneth of the Republic, remained silent. His species was known for careful deliberation, but even he seemed shaken. The human described a creature weighing 800 pounds as, what was the phrase? A giant raccoon with attitude problems. "We need context," Threk declared. "Real evidence, not just the rambling of one exchange student." "I've already initiated contact," Vex announced. "The human has agreed to provide documentation of these alleged pets via quantum communication link." Gorneth's orange skin shifted to a pale yellow, a sign of deep concern among his people. "Are we certain this is wise? What if the footage is disturbing?" "How much more disturbing can it be?" Threk asked. "She already told us they keep grizzly bear equivalent creatures in their sleeping quarters." The holographic display shimmered to life, showing a familiar face. Emily Parker appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a typical human dwelling. Behind her, sunlight streamed through transparent barriers that humans apparently used instead of proper force fields. "Hi there," Emily waved cheerfully. "Professor Valdris said you wanted to see some pictures of Earth animals." "Yes," Vex buzzed carefully. "We would like to verify your claims about domesticated creatures." "Oh, sure. Let me show you some photos of Buddy first." A screen filled with images that made all 3 council members recoil. A massive, dark creature with teeth like ivory daggers and eyes that radiated intelligence. In one image, it was carrying what appeared to be a small human child in its jaws. "That's my little brother Danny," Emily explained cheerfully. "Buddy used to carry him around like that when Danny was learning to walk. Gentlest dog you ever met." Trek's claws had extended involuntarily. "The creature, it has the child in its mouth." "Yeah. That's how big dogs carry puppies sometimes. Buddy never even left a mark. He had what we call a soft mouth, bred for retrieving things without damaging them." "Red?" Gorneth whispered. You artificially created these creatures?" "Well, selectively bred, yeah. Over thousands of years. We've got hundreds of different breeds now. Some are tiny, some are huge, some are bred for herding, some for hunting, some just for companionship." Emily swiped to the next image. This one showed a creature that looked like a wolf crossed with a tank, sitting next to what appeared to be an elderly human female. That's my grandma with her German shepherd, Rex. He was a retired police dog, used to take down armed criminals before he came to live with her. Police, dog. Vex's buzzing had reached a frequency that indicated panic. Oh yeah, we use dogs for all sorts of work. Police, military, search and rescue, therapy, guide dogs for the blind. They're incredibly smart and loyal. The next image showed dozens of these creatures running in a pack, tongues hanging out, appearing to chase something off screen. That's from the local dog park, Emily said. They go there to play with each other. Isn't that sweet? Oh, and here's our cat Whiskers. The screen showed a small, furry creature with retractable claws and predatory eyes. It was holding a dead animal in its mouth. Cats are natural hunters, Emily explained. Whiskers brings us presents all the time. Mice, birds, sometimes rabbits. It's how they show affection. You allow predators to live in your homes and kill other creatures as gifts? Gorneth's voice was barely audible. Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to hunt anyway. It's instinct. Better they do it outside than bring live prey into the house. Frex stood up so quickly his chair fell over. You're telling us that humans not only cohabitate with apex predators, but you've selectively bred them for specific purposes, including violence? Violence? No, you've got it wrong. These aren't violent animals, they're pets, family members. We love them. The police dog you mentioned. Rex was trained for protection, sure, but he spent his retirement playing with tennis balls and getting belly rubs. Dogs don't attack unless they're protecting their pack or they've been mistreated. The three council members exchanged glances. Vex was the first to speak, his voice trembling. Miss Parker, we need to understand something. These creatures you've shown us, they're considered safe around your offspring? Absolutely. Some of the best family dogs are the bigger breeds. They're patient, protective, and great with kids. We have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Gorneth said slowly, is possibly the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. The communication link went silent for a moment. Emily looked confused. Is everything okay? You all look a little stressed. Miss Parker, Threk said, his voice carefully controlled. We need to discuss something with our threat assessment team. We'll contact you again soon. The hologram flickered out, leaving the three council members sitting in stunned silence. Colleagues, Vex finally buzzed, I believe we need to have a very serious conversation about Earth's classification in our database. Gornith was already pulling up the threat assessment files on his tablet. According to our records, Earth's most dangerous predator is something called a house cat. House cat, Threk repeated slowly. The creature she just showed us. The one that kills other animals as gifts. The one, Gornith continued, his voice growing smaller, that our xenobiology team classified as harmless and suitable for use as a baseline for planetary safety ratings. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of the ship's life support systems. Somewhere in the database, Earth's threat level was about to undergo a very significant revision. But first, they had to figure out exactly how wrong they'd been about everything. The Galactic investigation team had never conducted an emergency xenological assessment via long-range communication before, but then again, they'd never discovered that an entire planet had been catastrophically misclassified in their database. Dr. Kellex adjusted his translation matrix and activated the quantum link. On the other end, an elderly human female appeared on screen, sitting in what appeared to be a typical Earth dwelling. Hello, dear, the woman said pleasantly. Emily said you wanted to ask about the animals in our neighborhood. Yes, ma'am, Dr. Kellex replied, trying to keep his voice steady. We're conducting a study of Earth's ecosystem. Could you tell us about the creatures that live near the Parker family? Oh, well, let's see. The Parkers always had lovely pets. That big dog of theirs, Buddy, used to play with all the children, and their cat was such a good hunter, kept the mouse population down. The mouse population. Oh yes, we have quite a few small rodents around here. Mice, rats, the occasional vole. Nothing too troublesome, though the rats can get into the garbage if you're not careful. Dr. Kellex made a note. Even Earth's pest animals were apparently robust enough to require active management by apex predators. What about other creatures in the area? He asked. Well, Mrs. Henderson next door has always been quite the gardener. She keeps a few snakes around to help with pest control. The investigation team exchanged glances. Snakes? Just garter snakes mostly. Though I think she has a couple of milk snakes too. They're wonderful for keeping the rodent population in check. Completely harmless to humans, of course. Of course, Dr. Kellex repeated weakly. And these snakes? They live in her garden? Yes, she's got quite a nice habitat set up for them. Rock piles, ground cover, water features. Emily's mother was always a bit jealous. She's more of a bird person herself. Bird person? Oh yes, the Parkers have several bird feeders. Attracts all sorts of species. Cardinals, blue jays, woodpeckers, though they do have to watch out for the hawks. Hawks. Birds of prey, dear. They hunt the smaller birds sometimes. It's nature's way, you know. Circle of life and all that. Dr. Kellex felt his secondary stomach begin to cramp. These hawks, they're predatory birds? Oh my, yes. Beautiful creatures, but they're quite efficient hunters. We had one that used to perch on our fence post. Magnificent bird, but it did make the songbirds nervous. And this was normal in your neighborhood? Well, certainly. Though I suppose it depends on where you live. Our area is fairly mild, really. Nothing like what you'd find in the mountains or the desert. The investigation team huddled together for a moment. Dr. Kellex cleared his throat. Ma'am, when you say mild, what exactly do you mean? Oh, you know, typical suburban wildlife. The most dangerous thing we ever had to deal with was probably the raccoons getting into the garbage, or maybe the occasional skunk. Though I suppose the bees could be problematic if you were allergic. In bees? Honeybees, mostly. Mr. Peterson down the street keeps hives. Lovely man, always sharing his honey with the neighbors. The bees do sting if you bother them, but they're generally quite docile. They inject venom. Well, yes, that's how bee stings work. Nothing too serious unless you're allergic. Most people just get a little swelling and pain. Dr. Kellex looked at his notes. In 30 minutes of conversation, this pleasant elderly human had casually mentioned predatory mammals, venomous reptiles, aerial hunters, and toxin-injecting insects, all of which he described as typical suburban wildlife. Ma'am, he said carefully, would you say your neighborhood is representative of most human communities? Oh, I'd say we're fairly average, though I suppose we're lucky we don't have to deal with some of the more challenging wildlife. More challenging? Well, bears occasionally wander down from the mountains, and there are coyotes in the area. Plus, my daughter lives in Arizona now, and she's always posting pictures of scorpions and Gila monsters. Makes me grateful for our peaceful little suburb. The investigation team sat in stunned silence. Dr. Kellex managed to find his voice. Could you elaborate on these scorpions and Gila monsters? Oh, you'd have to ask Sarah about those. She's the expert on desert wildlife. All I know is that she's always telling her kids to shake out their shoes before putting them on, and to check the pool for rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes? Venomous snakes, dear. Quite common in the American Southwest. They give you a warning before they strike, though. That's where the name comes from. Dr. Kellex felt his worldview crumbling like a poorly constructed asteroid mining station. Ma'am, one final question. In your opinion, what part of Earth has the most manageable wildlife? The elderly woman thought for a moment. Well, I suppose the northern regions are fairly quiet. Canada, Northern Europe, places like that. Though they do have their share of large predators. Bears, wolves, that sort of thing, and the least manageable? Oh, that's easy. Australia. Everything there is trying to kill you. The communication link went silent. Dr. Kellex stared at the screen, his mind racing. Ma'am, could you repeat that? Oh, henna. Oh my, yes. Spiders the size of dinner plates, snakes that can kill you with a single bite, crocodiles that can swallow a person whole. And that's just the things you can see. Don't even get me started on the jellyfish or the cone shells. The cone shells? Sea snails, beautiful to look at, but they have a harpoon-like tooth that delivers enough venom to kill a human in minutes. My grandson went to Australia last year and came back with quite a few stories. This Australia. It's part of Earth? Oh yes, lovely continent. Great Barrier Reef, Sydney Opera House, very friendly people. Though I understand the wildlife takes some getting used to. Dr. Keelix slowly closed his tablet. Ma'am, thank you for your time. This has been very educational. Oh, any time, dear. I do hope your study goes well. The communication link closed, leaving the investigation team sitting in shell-shocked silence. Colleagues, Dr. Keelix said finally, we need to contact the Galactic Council immediately. We? Asked his assistant. Because we've been using Earth's peaceful suburban wildlife as our baseline for planetary safety assessments. And apparently, there's an entire continent we haven't even catalogued yet. What kind of continent? Dr. Kellex pulled up the Earth files on his tablet and stared at the entry for Australia. According to their records, it was classified as a minor landmass with standard Earth-level biodiversity. The kind, he said quietly, where everything is trying to kill you. In the background, someone was already placing an emergency call to the Galactic Council. This was going to require a complete revision of their threat assessment protocols, starting with the uncomfortable realization that they'd been studying Earth's beginner continent all along. Part 4. Evacuation Protocols. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 47 different species packed the hall, their voices creating a cacophony that the translation systems couldn't keep up with. Emergency sessions were rare. Emergency sessions called by 3 different species simultaneously were unprecedented. Chancellor Brex pounded his ceremonial gavel, a relic from the old days when the council actually had time for ceremony. Order! We will have order! The noise died down to a manageable roar. The floor recognizes Ambassador Threk of the Dominion, Chancellor Brex announced. Trek rose, his forearms spreading wide in what his species considered a gesture of grave importance. Colleagues, we face an unprecedented crisis. The species we know as humans, classified as minimal threat in our database, have been systematically misrepresented. Misrepresented how? Called out Delegate Vorth from the Outer Rim territories. They live with apex predators, Threk replied. In their sleeping chambers, as companions. The hall erupted again. Chancellor Brex gave up on the gavel and activated the sonic dampeners. Furthermore, Threk continued, their so-called suburban neighborhoods contain more lethal species than most planets' designated death zones. And there's an entire continent we haven't properly catalogued that apparently contains creatures that exist solely to kill other creatures. Delegate Quinn of the Merchant Alliance stood up. What exactly are you proposing? Immediate evacuation of all non-essential personnel from Earth-adjacent systems, Threk declared, followed by a full quarantine of the Sol system until we can properly assess the threat level. Quarantine? The voice belonged to High Priestess Melva of the Spiritual Collective. Ambassador Threk, perhaps we should consider the possibility that these humans are not a threat to be contained, but rather beings to be revered. The hall fell silent. Even the sonic dampeners couldn't mask the collective intake of breath. Think about it, Melva continued. A species that coexists peacefully with apex predators, that shares their living spaces with creatures that could kill them at any moment. That describes Australia as simply taking some getting used to. Perhaps they are not dangerous. Perhaps they are transcendent. Transcendent, Threk's voice cracked. They breed predators for sport. They breed predators for companionship, Melva corrected. They have achieved harmony with the natural order in a way that no other species has managed. So your proposal is what, exactly? Chancellor Brex asked. Diplomatic overtures, cultural exchange, maybe even pilgrimage sites. The hall erupted into chaos. Half the delegates were frantically taking notes about evacuation procedures, while the other half were apparently calculating hyperspace routes to Earth. The chair recognizes Dr. Kellex of the investigation team, Chancellor Brex announced. Dr. Kellex approached the podium, his tablet clutched in his trembling appendages. Colleagues, I feel it's important to share some additional context we've gathered. He activated the holographic display. The image showed a suburban street lined with small human dwellings. This is what humans consider a typical neighborhood. Our analysis indicates that the average human dwelling contains at least 3 species that could kill a Galactic Council member, and that's before we factor in the local ecosystem. Define local ecosystem, Delegate Vorth requested. Flying hunters, ground-based predators, venomous arthropods, and toxic plants, all of which humans allow their offspring to play near unsupervised. Their offspring? Melva gasped. Yes. Human children regularly interact with these creatures as part of their normal development. We have footage of juvenile humans chasing flying insects, handling small predators, and deliberately attracting flying hunters with food sources. Are you suggesting, Chancellor Brex asked slowly, that humans raise their young in combat zones? We're suggesting that humans don't consider them combat zones at all. The implications of this statement settled over the hall like a toxic gas cloud. If humans didn't consider apex predator habitats to be dangerous, what did they consider dangerous? Dr. Keelix, Threk said, in your professional opinion, what is the appropriate response to this information? Dr. Kellex consulted his tablet. Based on our revised threat assessment, any contact with humans should be considered a Class 7 xenological event. Class 7? Delegate Quinn whispered. That's reserved for species that could accidentally cause galactic extinction. Yes. Meanwhile, on Earth, Emily Parker was having the strangest week of her life. The alien professors and investigators had been acting increasingly bizarre, and she was starting to worry that she'd somehow offended them. She activated her communication device and called Professor Valdris. Professor? It's Emily. I hope I didn't say anything wrong during those interviews. Everyone seems really upset about something. Professor Valdris appeared on screen, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Miss Parker, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Of course. Is Earth safe? Emily blinked. Safe? What do you mean? I mean, can a being visit your planet without being killed by the local wildlife? Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just have to use common sense. Don't pet strange animals, watch where you step, maybe get some vaccinations depending on where you're going. Basic travel stuff. Basic travel stuff. Valdris repeated. Sure, I mean, every planet has its hazards, right? You guys must have dangerous wildlife on your world too. Miss Parker, the most dangerous creature on my homeworld is a small herbivore that occasionally damages crops. Oh. Emily paused. Well, that's nice. Miss Parker, when you say use common sense, what exactly do you mean? You know, standard precautions. Don't swim in crocodile-infested waters, shake out your shoes for spiders, don't pick up snakes unless you know what you're doing, that sort of thing. Don't pick up snakes unless you know what you're doing, Valdris repeated in a monotone voice. Right. I mean, some of them are harmless, but unless you can tell the difference between a milk snake and a coral snake, it's better to just leave them alone. Miss Parker, do you know the difference between a milk snake and a coral snake? Oh, sure. Red touches yellow, kill a fellow. Red touches black, venom lack. Basic rhyme, every kid learns. Every child learns to identify venomous snakes. Well, in areas where they're common, yeah. Same way kids learn to identify poisonous plants or recognize bear tracks. It's just basic safety education. The communication link went silent for a long moment. Professor, are you okay? Miss Parker, Valdris said finally. I think there's been a misunderstanding. When we classified Earth as minimal threat, we may have made an error. An error? What kind of error? A very, very large one. 3 months later, the Galactic Council issued new navigation protocols. The Sol system was reclassified as approach only if absolutely necessary, with a warning label that read, "Inhabitants coexist peacefully with apex predators and consider venomous creatures to be basic safety concerns. Recommend extreme caution and comprehensive life insurance." Trade routes were quietly redirected, tourist destinations were updated, and somewhere in the vast database of galactic knowledge, Earth's threat level was changed from minimal to incomprehensible. The humans, meanwhile, continued their daily lives, completely unaware that they had become the galaxy's most feared neighbors. They walked their dogs, tended their gardens, and occasionally posted pictures of the cute wildlife in their backyards. And across 17 star systems, alien children had nightmares about creatures that humans called pets. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who don't realize they're predators at all. But perhaps the most unsettling discovery came 3 weeks later, when Emily Parker posted a video of her family's vacation to something called Yellowstone National Park. The footage showed humans casually walking within meters of massive creatures that dwarfed even the largest specimens in the Galactic database. Creatures Emily cheerfully identified as just some bison and elk. "Look at that grizzly bear in the distance," she said, pointing her recording device at what appeared to be a mobile mountain of fur and claws. "We were so lucky to see one." The video ended with Emily's father warning her to give the wildlife some space, before panning to show dozens of other humans similarly wandering through what could only be described as a predator preserve. Dr. Kellix watched the footage 17 times before finally updating his report. Humans appear to vacation in apex predator habitats for recreational purposes. Recommend immediate psychological evaluation of our entire species classification system.